lines?
Yeah,
Oh.
there's sound waves.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the O. Charles Show. I'm your host, Charlie Charles, and I'm here with Grandad to talk about how to start managing your personal finances. So thanks so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
What are some key financial ideas to keep in mind as someone begins on a journey to kind of reset or manage their finances?
Great question. First of all, my suggestion would be to avoid debt at all costs. Debt just is like an anchor. It weighs you down and prevents you from going forward. So eliminating debt, if you're already in debt, would be a top priority. But staying out of debt before you ever get into it would be the best idea that I can think of. Then managing your finances to get out of debt, if you're out of debt or you're trying to get out of debt, then you need to be saving and investing for the future. So Dave Ramsey, great Christian financial wizard, if you will, has said many times that the best thing to do, first of all, get out of debt, then save an emergency fund. Because what? There's always an emergency. The car breaks down, the roof leaks, unexpected bill happens. And so if we have an emergency fund, then we're not going to use credit or borrow money to overcome that emergency if we have an emergency fund. So we should be building that. And even for teenagers, the first thing that they could do would be to start with a $500 emergency fund. So save some money. As you get a job, you babysit, shovel snow, mow lawns, whatever it might be, is to save at least 10% of whatever you earn. And that could be like a gift from grandparents or aunts and uncles. It could be those jobs I mentioned. Just save 10%. Put it away. Put it in some place you cannot get to easily, like a bank account. If you put it in your cookie jar or in your desk drawer, you can always go and open that desk drawer or open the cookie jar and say, oh, I think I need this money right now. But if it's at the bank, it's much more difficult to access those funds.
And for adults that might be kind of already living above their means, how would you recommend for them to start saving?
Well, the first thing they should do would be to write a budget.
Okay.
And that is, you have to know where every penny is going. And if they're living above their means, that means they're spending more than they're earning.
Yes.
More, and not just more than they're earning, but more than their take-home pay, because what we earn is taxed. So it's not just the earnings, it's the take-home pay. So they've got to say, okay, our budget has to equal the amount of take-home money that we make. So all the categories in your budget need to add up to the amount of money that you take home. So that's the first thing they've got to do, so that they know where it's going. Then they can manage, oh, well, we know we're spending too much going out to eat. So what do?
Eat at home.
You eat at home. You don't go out to eat. Or, oh, we're going to the movies 4 and 5 times a month, and we're buying popcorn. And so we may not be able to do that.
The movie popcorn is way overpriced.
Oh,
you can make it at home for probably about 5 cents.
Yes, it is way overpriced. You got that.
Also not good for your health.
That's
You
right.
may end
It's
up
all
with
money.
more medical bills that way.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So we kind of already talked about starting with living below your means, saving 10%, starting a budget. Where could people begin in terms of debt if they're already in debt, how can they begin to pay that off?
Okay, so the you have to know where your money's going. So if it's credit card debt, student loan, uh, other kinds of loans, most people have a mortgage when they're adults.
Yes.
That's the money that they borrow to purchase a home. That is acceptable debt. But the acceptable debt on a mortgage or your rent payment should be no more than about 30% of your take-home pay. If it's more than your 30% of your take-home pay, then you're probably pushing the boundary of what would be acceptable. So if it's credit card debt or student loan debt, you take the largest debt that you have, other than your mortgage, if you have a mortgage, and you start saying, okay, I'm going to pay that one off, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get rid of that debt as sooner than later. And the first thing is credit cards charge astronomical rates. Matter of fact, currently President Trump is trying to get it to where the credit card companies will only charge 10% for a year. Because right now, some of the credit card companies charge as high as 30%.
Mm.
And so when you're paying your credit card debt, that means how much ever you borrowed plus 30%.
Yes.
That is an arm and a leg. And so you get rid of the largest one first. So you pay extra toward that one. You get rid of it sooner than later. And then when you get rid of that one, you take the next largest one. But that presumes that you're not going into debt behind that. So you can't say, okay, I'm going to pay off this debt and then get another credit card and start using it.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
So what I'm seeing here is that credit cards can be a real pitfall to people. And so the best thing would be to prevent abusing the credit that you have.
Well, the recommendation would be to just pay cash. If you can't pay cash for something, then you can't afford it. So don't
That's true.
borrow, and using your credit card is borrowing to purchase something that you want as opposed to something that you need.
Yes.
And so if you're using cash to pay for all your needs, then you're going to know exactly where you are on any given day because you've budgeted and you know how much cash you have.
And you also see it too. There's a physical element of, okay, I have this money, I'm giving it to somebody, rather than just a number on a screen where it's they make it easier and easier. They're removing as many barriers as they can to paying.
Exactly.
They're making it easier and easier.
Oh, yeah.
At Whole Foods now, you can put your hand on a scanner and you've paid for your thing through like Amazon or whatever.
I know.
So
I know.
don't fall for it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't scan your hand. That does
No.
not sound like a good idea, no matter what it's for.
No.
So you speak from financial experience. So what's your financial background, sort of, and are there any experiences you've had in your life that shaped your outlook?
Great question. I have over 40 years of experience in the financial services industry. I started out working when I was 14. And so I consider myself to have a very good work ethic.
Yes.
And then when I was in high school, I actually went to work for my high school as a janitor in the evening. And we got paid once a month at the school. The school district paid all their employees once a month. That taught me how to budget.
Right.
And it taught me that, well, I only have so much money, and I got it all at the end of the month, and then that money had to last until the end of the next month.
So things were not just handed to you. You learned from experience.
Absolutely.
And from hard work. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to, save my birthday money.
No, actually, we didn't come from a very wealthy background. And so my father was not, well, let's just say he was a little more stingy than I would have liked. But his stinginess forced me to go to work. And then I was able to buy the things that I wanted and also the things that I needed. So that really helped me as far as the budgeting concerned. And then when I got married, my wife was very frugal as well. But she came from, I'd say, a little bit better off background than I came from. And so we had to learn together how to make ends meet when we only got paid once a month.
Right.
So when we both knew that we wanted to go to college, and so when we got married, both of our sets of parents, my dad he had no intention of paying anything for us. And my wife's parents said, once you get married, you're on your own. So you have to figure out how you're going to pay for your school and living and cars and all that. Well, my school district salary paid for all of our living expenses and our car expenses, insurance, gas, those kinds of things. Anne went to work part-time, and her part-time salary, now you can't do that today, but back when we went to college, her part-time salary would pay for our school. So that's another thing. No school debt. We graduated, both of us, with zero debt. We had no money, but we had no debt. So when we started working towards in our career, then we were able to start saving.
And then that money is yours, and it doesn't belong to somebody else.
That's right, it doesn't belong to somebody else. So that really helped us a bunch.
So you were very, very intentional from the beginning. You knew you weren't getting into debt, even though if you had gotten a student loan, maybe you would have been able to, spend more on something else, but instead you intentionally chose to be wise about your decision to set you up well for the future.
As you mentioned, that the like Whole Foods makes it so easy to go into debt or purchase your groceries and stuff. Well, the college, university scene today makes it so easy to borrow money.
Yeah.
And in my day, they weren't you had to earn the right to borrow money. You had to have a credit score. You had to, and most kids just going into college didn't have a credit score because they hadn't had any credit.
Right.
Well, and what do you have to do to get credit? You have to borrow money. And so you have to borrow money and pay it back on time. So that's talking about credit cards. As a young person, having a credit card is probably not a great idea. But once you're a young adult, having one single credit card that you use sparingly, but if you use it, you pay it off every month.
Yes.
Two things that will do. It will increase your ability to use that credit card for other things. And two, it will give you a good credit score. So even though you can get by without having a credit score. Even insurance companies use the credit score to try and determine how much to charge you as an individual for car insurance, house insurance, renter's insurance, life insurance. So we do need a good credit score if we ever borrow, and that's
Yes.
like a credit card.
So it's good to set that up.
Yes.
Wisely, of course. So you mentioned Dave Ramsey briefly. Are there any other resources that you recommend or that you have used? And you've taught personal finance classes as well, so.
Yes, I've taught, and that was a Dave Ramsey-based program that we taught at the homeschool co-op, and it was for high school students, and it goes from the basics of opening a checking account, again, staying out of debt, not borrowing money to pay for college, not borrowing money to buy your first car. Those are just a few of the simple things. Then as we got into it, we actually worked taxes. We did 1040 per 10 for each of the students. And then we had them work on a budget, draw up a budget for themselves. Some of the kids were working, and some of the kids were not. So some of it was just, quote, make-believe at the time, but it was something that they could use later on when they have to do their actual taxes or actual budget. So other resources, the library, the public library is a great resource. There's so many publications and periodicals that you can use to help you learn how to invest, learn how to save, learn how to get out of debt if you're in debt. There's just a plethora of resources at the public library.
Yeah, and the public library is free.
Yes.
If you turn your books in on time.
And that's another thing. You can go to the library and use the internet.
Yes.
You don't have to have the internet at home. And that costs money. You can go to the library with a library card and use theirs for nothing.
I think that's probably another good habit to think about. You don't always have to have the new thing or the 20 different TV programs. You can do with a lot less. You can do with used. You can do with getting a library book instead of a new one.
Yes.
So even if you're going to read a book, just go get it free from the library, rather than spending $20 on it.
Exactly.
So you don't always have to do the thing that everybody else is doing.
No.
When you're buying a textbook or whatever it is,
As we always said, dare to be different. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
And that'll probably set you up very well for personal finance.
Yes.
So why is it important to manage finances, and what benefits does that have for you, your family, and your future?
Boy, that's a good question. And the benefit to us as individuals is that we're not a burden to others. Like when we're young, a burden to our parents. They don't have to pay for us because we're standing on our own. We're earning our own money. We're investing it. We're saving it. We're spending it the way we should. We're not living above our means. And so we're not having to borrow from them. Just a quick aside, a brother-in-law that I had years and years ago, he was making, at the time, a very, very good salary. But he spent every penny and more and ended up borrowing all the time from his mother.
Wow.
And he was middle-aged when he was still doing that. And that's a burden, and it's also not a good example to your children.
Right.
To have them know that, oh, well, Dad can't manage his money. He's going to his mother to borrow money so that they can do whatever it is they're wanting to do. So we're not a burden to others. We stand up on our own 2 feet. What does it mean to our family ultimately is that, well, when we get to be very old, then we have the resources to take care of us, and that we're not a burden to our extended family at that time. So we can leave a legacy. We can give. If we are in a financial situation where we haven't borrowed money, we've saved, we've invested, we're able to give to charity, to other people generously. So God says He loves a generous person.
Yes. And I think there's so much joy in giving to others as well.
Yes.
So even just giving a small amount, it'll just kind of make your day.
It does. It makes you feel good.
You think it'll make you feel worse, but I feel like what you have actually multiplies when you give some of it away.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for being here on the show. This has been a great talk.
You're welcome.
I hope our listeners have found some helpful tips. I think no matter what age you are, you can start. You kind of have no excuse to avoid it, Just it takes intentionality. It takes hard work. And Granddad's put in that work, and he's in a great position to share his wisdom with others. So I hope you take something home with you from this episode today that will set you up well and your family well for the future. All right, this is the O. Charles Show, over and out.